Welcome to our channel. If you're not trying to hang with us, keep it rolling because this is friendship.
Woo! Let's
I'm your
get it.
co-host, Kimberly Tyler,
And I'm Crystal Ryan.
and we are your fave besties, bringing you the tea and the
Sipping the
spooky
tea. Spooky stories
stories.
this month, y'all.
That's
Every
right.
week.
Spooky Fest, October. Spectacular. And today's episode is definitely that.
Creepy. Guys, it's creepy.
Very creepy. And I just want to give a trigger warning that this episode does contain graphic content and mentions of murder and death. So if this is something that seems a little too heavy for you, that's okay. We will see you on the next episode, and we love
Yes.
you.
Still love you.
So, girl, I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
Do you think people are born evil or made that way?
I think that is a good debate because there's scientific proof that it could be either or. Different studies and statistics say that, some people are a product of their environment and the way they are raised and, what they're exposed to.
Right.
And then you got people that, had a perfect childhood. I use that term loosely, y'all, because nobody's perfect. But, like a normal childhood, a normal upbringing, and they still grow up or while they're young do kind of horrendous crimes. So like for me personally, I'm kind of one of those people that's kind of on the fence because I think, you can be born that way or you can be molded that way.
Yeah. It probably definitely does depend on the individual.
Mm-hmm.
So each case is probably different.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel some are born that way.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. So
Especially in this case, because
yes.
tonight, friends, we are finally telling you the story of our brief encounter with a serial killer. And the
Crazy.
crazy thing about it is we didn't even know until like what, maybe a year and a half, 2 years
Yeah, I think it was
ago.
a year or two ago we finally like kind of pieced it together ourselves.
Yeah. And man, somebody was definitely watching after us that night.
The good man upstairs, y'all.
That's right. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And for the people that didn't get to escape his wrath, I hope they are resting in peace and their families are, I know God's got them, and I hope they're doing all right.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, according to NY Post, it is said that the average person can walk past 36 murderers in their lifetime.
That's wild.
Yeah. So while the chances of encountering a serial killer are statistically low, it's important to be aware of your surroundings and trust your instinct. Any job that gets you out of your hometown on the road is a perfect job for a serial killer. When you have someone killed in a house, there's your crime scene. Lots of evidence. These are the words spoken by Dellmus Colvin on Where the Bodies Are Buried podcast. Dellmus Charles Colvin, aka Heavy, also dubbed the Interstate Strangler, is currently serving several life term sentences at the Lebanon Correctional Institution for the murder of 7 people. But according to Colvin, he has killed roughly 50 people over 2 decades as a long haul truck driver. That's crazy.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And honestly, after you guys hear the things that he has done, I believe him. Colvin was born on August 3rd, 1959, and grew up in the countryside of Akron, Ohio. He had a normal childhood. According to him, it was boring. I was not abused. I worked on a farm since I was 12 years old. always earning a living by myself. I went to an all white high school, mostly rich kids, and wrestled and played football for 2 years. In his teenage years, he began to have conflict with his stepmother. Podcast host Phil Chalmers asked when the first time he thought about killing. I was 14. I wanted to kill my stepmother. I just didn't know where to bury her fat ass. She never spoke to me. So I had a gun and was showing my brother how to shoot, and he accidentally missed, and it came through the window and stuck in a cabinet where she was cooking. She swore up and down I was trying to kill her. To everyone, she was scared of me. Man, 14.
That's crazy. I mean, I didn't like my stepmom a whole lot at 14, but you know, you do what you do.
Right. Like, that tells you right there he's got some problems if the
Yeah,
only thing that stopped him from doing is he didn't know where to bury her at. That's crazy.
it's crazy.
After graduating high school, Colvin became a taxi driver in Atlantic City and its surrounding suburbs. In the mid 1980s, he began to show signs of antisocial behavior and problems with social skills. He began leading a criminal lifestyle of drug dealing and pimping. He often preferred spending time in the company of prostitutes who mostly were drug addicts.
Why do all serial killers hang out with prostitutes?
Probably because they're easy targets.
I mean, isn't it crazy? Even old Dahmer's ass hanging out with the male prostitutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just crazy. Where are all these prostitutes? Because I don't never see no prostitutes.
You just ain't in the right part of town to see them, girl.
Oh, thank God. I'm staying out of it. I'd be like, what are you doing?
But regardless of occupation or whether you are a drug addict or not, no one's life is that unvaluable to lose.
Oh, I 100%
You
agree.
know?
It's just, I feel like it's always like, he hung out with prostitutes. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
just wonder if it's a common, because I feel like people that kill people usually have some kind of insecurity, you know, or
Yeah.
uncomfortable stuff with themselves. So it's like they almost have to buy affection, they feel like.
Probably. Yeah. And then, it's probably people that really, I mean, they're probably sociopaths and
Mm-hmm.
don't have that connection to be able to communicate with people. So their
Yeah,
first thing is just trying to go with what they're trying to get after. So whether
right.
it's sex or, whatever it is, they just want to get it the easy way.
You,
In the late 1980s, Colvin moved back to Ohio, where over the years he lived in the cities of Swanton, Lima, Orient, and Toledo.
hmm,
And I know, right? He was all up in that. I've never heard of Swanton. Is that close to
no, I've never heard of that one either, but I've heard of the other three.
yeah, definitely the other three. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
been through those parts.
Yeah, I don't know where old Swanton is.
Yeah, me either.
Sounds janky.
Probably
And I'm from
am.
Ohio. I can say that.
That's right. We are born and bred in Ohio. In 1989, he was sentenced to 3 to 15 years in prison for felonious assault and a weapons violation in Summit County. He was released on parole in 1992, but was sent back to prison July 1993 for violating parole due to drug abuse.
Good Lord.
Hmm.
Should have just kept his
He
ass locked up for the whole 15.
exactly. It might have saved some lives.
Mm-hmm.
He was released in 1996. He then moved to Toledo and found work as a truck driver. To give you guys a little rundown on how it even came about that we figured this out. So I had listened to the podcasts where the bodies were buried, and I think I was going through a phase where, I was just like really like into like the true crime and
Mhm.
like the criminal profiling and everything like that. So I was listening to all kinds of podcasts. And so when I heard the episode of Dellmus, so Phil Chalmers is the host of Where the Bodies Are Buried podcast. And he is specialized in serial killer profiling.
Mhm.
On the podcast, he will actually talk on the phone with some of these guys.
Yeah.
And this episode in particular had actually got pretty popular because when he was talking to Dellmus, he actually gave details on where a body he had dumped.
Mhm.
And it was the first time he had even said anything. So the police didn't know anything about that at all. We'll touch into that again. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting episode. Unfortunately, like now, for some reason, that episode does not play his interview. I think maybe they might still be trying to investigate that.
Mhm.
So maybe that's why it's not on there. But I was able to get the transcript of that episode. And he said some pretty heinous stuff in this podcast, you guys.
Yeah,
And I
because I
will
remember
leave
when you
the
sent it to me. I've listened to it like on the way to work and stuff. Mhm.
Yeah. So after I listened, I was looking him up. I'm like, ooh, this is a serial killer that was in Ohio. I looked him up and I saw his picture. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I've seen that guy. I know I've seen that guy. And I was like, and I think Crystal's seen him too. So to make sure I wasn't crazy, I was like, girl, I want to send you a picture. Does this guy look familiar to you?
Mhm.
And you were like, kinda, but I can't think of where we've seen him from.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, we met this guy at that old Western country bar. And we did. We did. And how I
Mhm.
feel confident that we did is because this bar in particular is located on it's not there anymore. It's actually like just like a hotel and like a little party center thing. Cause I went to a wedding
Really?
reception there before. Yeah.
Oh.
It's called like Buckeye Inn Express, but it's on like 161 right
Mhm.
off of 71.
And it used to be a Days Inn.
Yeah. And a putt-putt golf place.
Yep. And then it was called, because crazy side story, my grandma worked at this bar for
Yes.
years, like as a bartender and waitress, like in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
What was it called?
I
Cahoots?
can't remember. Was it Cahoots?
It was something.
I want to say, was it called like Catacombs?
Catacombs.
Or is that a
It was
store?
something. It was something like that.
Well,
It was
either
funny.
way, like okay, so back when we were like, just a little story into the story. Back when we were like, what, maybe 13, 14,
Yeah.
like we
Eighth,
got to
ninth
go to,
grade.
yeah, we got to go to work with her one night. And so we were just like up there, like singing karaoke and everything. So we were having a good time.
And we did that a couple times. We went with her,
Yeah,
like on
that's
Sundays or
right.
something nights. It was something like that.
Yeah. So fast forward, like we're adults now. I mean, we're not 21 yet, but we are, I think, like 19, maybe getting ready to go on 20. And we were like trying to figure out somewhere where to go because we didn't want to stay, in the house and everything. Like we wanted to go out.
Hmm.
And I think we really wanted to like do some karaoke.
Hmm.
So
Probably.
yeah. So we were like, maybe that bar will still have some karaoke. So that's why we went in the first place.
Hmm.
And we're able to get in. Like we can't drink, of course, but we can still be there.
Yeah.
So we're at this place. There's no karaoke going on, of course. I don't know if that's a certain night or they just did away with it or what. Or
Yeah,
maybe they were just doing it because we were there. I don't. But
we
they
were
didn't have it
celebrating.
going. That's right. They were like, "Oh, there's the teenagers."
Singing TLC Red Light Special. I'm just
Right?
saying.
Oh my gosh, jailbait.
Oh man.
But yeah, so like it was just more when you go in there, it just looked kind of just like a little regular casual bar. People are
Yeah,
just
little
walking
dance
around.
floor, little
Yeah.
bar. And we were even talking to the bartender because it was the same guy that worked with my grandma, was Dan.
Right. Yeah, he was still there.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Dan. If you see this, like, yo, man, you was serving a serial killer.
He's a real one though.
He is a
He's a
real
real one.
one. But yeah, so Colvin was sitting at the bar and like for some reason I can remember the color of the shirt he wore and I can remember what I wore, but I can't remember what you wore. I just know, and I used to wear this outfit all the time. I had like it was some blue jeans with that brown like long sleeve shirt and the brown vest to go over it. Do you remember that? And I had them brown like fake UGG boots on from Kohl's.
Not the fugs, girl. Not the fugs.
I had some fugs, girl.
Oh my god.
I bet everybody had some fugs at one time.
I had some fugs from Aeropostale and I loved those things. They were
They are, and they keep
they were
your feet
nice.
warm. But he was sitting at the bar, and he was actually trying to talk to you first. You remember that?
Yeah, I
Like,
do. Like, and y'all, I'm not even trying to be funny, like, and I'm not just like tooting my own horn, but I've never really looked my age. I've always kind of had, like, my body always looked a little more advanced, but my face, like, if you were just sitting down talking to me at that age, like 19, 20, I probably really looked like I was probably about 15 or 16.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I was even just kind of like, ugh. I'm so turned off by random men talking to me, though. I just don't like it.
I mean, I it depends on how the vibe feels. Like if I can feel that this person is weird, I don't want to.
Yes.
But like if it's someone that seems like, all right, I'm gonna be polite and be like, oh yeah,
Right. But it
hello.
immediately felt cringe. Like, it
Yeah.
immediately felt cringy.
Like you could feel like the weirdness like coming
Mm-hmm.
off of him. Like
Yeah,
he
the
was just
vibe
kind of
coming from him was negative, for sure.
very, very
Yes.
negative, like just
Yes.
dark. And I remember there was like another guy sitting on the other side of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell he had been drinking a little bit, but he was really cool. Like he was very
He was
nice.
nice. Yeah.
And he actually started talking to us because I think he could feel that guy was weird too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like, he
he's
was
like,
kind
hey,
of trying to step in.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, hey, are you guys having a good time? And
Yep.
we're not even drinking, but we're just like, yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
all right. But then like he tried to talk to us both again because he was
Mm-hmm.
asking if we could all just get a room together. And we were like, no, like at that time we had to act like we were together just so people would leave us alone. And I think for him that wasn't really working because he was just asking. And
He
then we
asked
have
for the caramel vanilla swirl. I'll never forget that because it's the grossest thing I've still ever heard in my life.
man, I forgot that he said that. I'm glad you
Yes,
remembered.
I do
Uh,
remember that because we were both just like, ugh.
yeah. Cause like even when you look at this guy, like he's short and stocky and he's got a bald head
Mm-hmm.
and he just looked weird
Mm.
and just not pleasant. Even the way like just talking to us, it just felt like he was already degrading us.
Right. And keep in mind, she said when he was born was like 59, and we were born in
Mm-hmm.
85. If that gives you any kind of age gap, that was going
Right.
on. And we were barely
Yeah.
20.
Exactly. So that's just already just creep fest.
Mm-hmm.
But the crazy thing, girl, that I remember with this is after he figured out we weren't, giving in, like we started talking to that other guy again.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had end up leaving because I guess he finished eating and drinking or whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
So he had walked out. And we stayed, I would say maybe a half hour,
Mm-hmm.
like after he had left, just because, we were
Yeah.
talking and just trying to figure out where we wanted to go next. 'Cause I don't think you wanted to go home yet. Because
Probably not.
it was still early in the night. So when we finally leave, that's when he started his truck and was getting ready to leave. So I wonder if he was going to get ready to try to follow us.
I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah. I was just weird. Like, I don't know why he waited that long to
Mm-hmm.
leave,
For
but
reals.
it was a brief encounter. But despite the fact that that could have been his plan for us, is really bone
Scary. It's
chilling for
scary to
me.
think about.
It really is.
We
And
were pretty naive
like,
at that age. I mean, everybody is.
oh yeah. But I think because the way he was just already just so dark. Like, I think our being naive was just thrown out the door. Like, we already were just like, no, you're
Mm-hmm.
scary.
Right.
Well, not scared, but like we just thought he was weird.
Yeah.
So that was our brief encounter with Dellmus Colvin.
Yes.
Now, in April 2004, Colvin was arrested after a woman told police she got into a truck at Summit and Magnolia Streets. She said she was punched in the ribs and face and threatened with a knife. After being driven around for more than an hour, she escaped from her attacker in a parking lot. In the investigation, blood and saliva was taken from him for DNA testing to see if he had committed any similar crimes in the past. Due to the DNA results, in November 2005, Dellmus Colvin was charged with the murders of two women, 33-year-old Jackie Simpson and 37-year-old Melissa Weber, who were both murdered in Toledo on April 16th and May 9th, respectively. Weber's body was found decomposed under a couch behind a vacant truck terminal. The DNA under Weber's fingernails matched Colvin's DNA. In addition, he was charged with the rape that occurred that same year. In September 2006, Colvin stood trial for the murders. He accepted a plea deal in exchange to take the death penalty off the table. He pled guilty to the murders as well as three others. In his testimony in January 2000, he lured 38-year-old Valerie Jones into his truck, where he strangled her and then dumped her body in Lake Erie in Ottawa County. On September 1st, 2000, he lured 42-year-old Jacqueline Thomas into his truck's cabin, after which he violated and killed her. Her body was found the next day in Monroe County. So basically, he's getting these people, and then when he dumps them, he's dumping them on outskirts or in a whole different
Mm-hmm.
city just to
Yeah.
keep from people from being able to identify who they are.
And like it
And
was
by
like a bunch of like real um like rundown truck stops was I think some of them are like old truck stops that really weren't used anymore. So like he
right,
knew where to stop, but he also knew that people weren't using it anymore really.
exactly. And that's just ugh.
Scary to think about.
It is because I'm sure once they find them, it takes a while to find out, who they even are. Because
Yeah,
that
where they
missing
got picked
case
up.
could, yeah, that could it be like miles, like 40 miles away. Not 40, that's
Mm-hmm.
still not that far, but you know what I mean.
Well, 100, 200 miles away can give you just enough time for him to be
Mm-hmm.
completely out of that area.
Exactly. 43-year-old Lily Summers was killed by Colvin, whom he previously offered money in exchange for sex. Her body was found in April 2002. On October 3rd, 2006, Colvin confessed to another murder. He admitted to killing 40-year-old Dorothea Wetzel, who was found on the banks of the Maumee River in southern Toledo. Colvin said the motive for his killings were caused by his sexual complexes and inferiority complex. That just tells you, and if he can tell you that's his reason, that tells you that he's probably definitely a sociopath.
Oh, yeah.
In June 2010, Colvin was charged with the cold case murder of 27-year-old Donna Lee White, who was killed on September 15, 1987, in Atlantic City. Colvin states he met her while working as a taxi driver and offered to go back to his apartment to drink and have sex.
Huh.
Donna began taking drugs and fainted from cocaine toxicity. So instead of helping her, Colvin strangled her with a plastic bag, rolled her in carpet, and dumped her in a parking lot in Garden City.
Damn.
I know.
Could have just dropped her off at the emergency room, bro.
Right. Maybe he was scared she could identify who he was. Colvin received an additional 30 years imprisonment to be served concurrently with his life sentences. During the podcast, Colvin shared details about the murder of a prostitute in 2005 in LaSalle County, Illinois, near Ottawa. Per his testimony, he dumped the victim's body in an abandoned building located in the small town of Peru. The LaSalle sheriff authorized a search at the designated dump site, resulting in 2 bones first believed to belong to a woman's skeleton, but they were later found to be non-human.
Mm-hmm.
Colvin also states in the podcast, there are many serial killer truck drivers who are still active. They all know each other and they call women packages. So I would say, hey, Samantha, Breaker 19 Samantha, I've got a package for you here in Toledo. When asked by, that is crazy. So he's definitely not the only one out there.
It's crazy. Makes sense, though.
When asked by host Phil Chalmers if he is remorseful for his crimes, Colvin said, hell no. Remorse is for suckers. I always slept well at night.
Remorse is for people that have a conscience.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my god.
I do remember him saying in the podcast, I couldn't find his exact quote, but I remember him saying that a lot of the ones that, he confesses to are like certain states due to like with regulations because he's trying to avoid from confessing to in states that could give him the death penalty.
That makes sense.
So there's probably so many people out there that they still haven't found yet.
Yeah, no closure, which is sad.
I will say this, I think karma hit him a little bit. When the interview on the podcast took place, it was 2020. So that's when the United States and the rest of the world was battling with COVID-19. So while he was in prison, like he was really sick with the virus, and like he was talking to the host and he was like telling him like, I need help. I've been sweating all day and night. I can't breathe. Like how ironic is that?
That's what, yeah, comes full circle.
That's right. He's still alive serving his sentences and he will never get out of there.
And what state is he in?
Ohio. Yep. It was Lebanon, Ohio. So, girl, what did you think of everything that you heard?
I mean, I'm glad that we avoided what could have been the last night of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder, like, how many people do we really come in contact with that could take you out? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know a lot of crimes are committed by people that know you, which is also kind of scary if you think about.
Oh, yeah. I still get surprised that we're not murdered yet. Because
I'm
I feel
surprised
like,
he didn't take me out, to be honest.
right, that's what I'm saying. We've both been so close, to like that being able to happen.
Oh, mental illness is not something to play with. Okay,
Mm-mm, not at all.
it's really not.
If things don't feel right and it's interfering with your life, talk to someone about it.
Get out of there. Do something.
Even if you think like there's nothing wrong or nothing going on, and you have people that care about you that tell you that something is,
Mm-hmm.
try to be open-minded, get some help.
Absolutely. Get some help.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, friends, if you've made it to the end, thank you for hanging with us. That is our time for this episode. We hope you got to get a little spooked and entertained at the same time. And if you guys have any stories about like any encounters that you might have had, or just like any person that you want to talk about, please feel free to
Yes.
comment below. If you have any questions for us about our encounter with it, please feel free to ask and we shall answer. So you can DM us on well, not DM, but you comment on YouTube, comment on Spotify, DM us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You know where to find us.
Thank y'all for listening, especially on a Halloween. If you want to share your
Yes.
costumes with us, we still would like to see those. I'm going to
Happy
be Lyle
Halloween.
Menendez.
That's awesome. Like, what's the outfit that you're going to be wearing? I got to hear this.
So, me, me and Kayla are going to be Lyle and Eric.
Yeah.
And at first we were going to be them like in court, like where they wear the sweaters and like the little button ups and stuff. But then
Mm-hmm.
we saw this TikTok where they like people dressed up as them from the Monsters show, but have like toy shotguns. So,
Oh, that would be cool.
so I'm gonna wear the pink polo shirt and like the little aviator glasses and carry a
That's going
shotgun.
to be cute. Yes.
So I'm excited.
I know you definitely have to take pictures and
Oh,
send them. Well, friends, we love you and we'll
we
see you
love you.
next week.